welcome to you all. Let's start off with a few introductions. I'm Lisa Law, one of the career staff here at the university. And as you can see, I'm joined by two others today. Claire, first of all. Claire, would you like to just say hello?
Yeah. Hi everyone, so I'm Claire, I'm Faculty Public Engagement Coordinator and I work on lots of public facing events, including Artsfest, which you may already know me from.
Lovely, thank you. And also Naomi, who's our guest speaker today. So welcome, Naomi. Do you want to just say hi and quickly introduce yourself?
Yep. Hello everybody, my name's Naomi Jacques and I'm a glass artist living in the Midlands.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, now you might have joined us for some of our other Creative Futures talks. You might be new with us today. So for anybody who hasn't joined us before, just to give you an overview as to what we're doing here, we're inviting in lots of different guest speakers from different creative backgrounds and disciplines and jobs and sectors to talk to us about their careers really. So the jobs that they do now, what makes up their jobs, typical activities, just to get a bit of insight really into what it's actually like in this case to be a glass artist. And then also to find out a little bit about how the guest speakers actually got into the role that they're doing now. Because forging a creative career can mean lots of twists and turns. It's not always straightforward, and it's really useful to hear about people's individual pathways and journeys. Just in terms of how this is going to work, we'll be chatting lots and lots with Naomi. If you do have any questions as we go through, please don't hesitate to ask. All you'll need to do is hover over your Zoom toolbar. You'll see the Q&A function there. And if you can just type in your question, then myself and Claire will pick that up as we go along. We have got the chat open as well, and that's so that we can post any messages out to you, web links and that kind of thing. I would like to just remind you that this is a public platform, so please don't share anything that you would consider to be sensitive or confidential. And then final thing to say is we are recording today's session so that you can see it afterwards, and so that others who haven't been able to attend can also watch the recording. Okay, so without further ado, I think we need to get chatting with Naomi really. Naomi, I can see you in your studio there. I think perhaps a good way to begin this is just to find out a little bit more about what you actually do as a glass artist. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your practice?
So I make kiln form sculptures predominantly for exhibitions and galleries. I also, underneath that, also teach, and I run community classes as well. Okay,
lovely. And can you just sort of say a bit more about what it's like day to day as a glass artist and a workshop facilitator? What kinds of things does that comprise of?
What do I get into in a day? So in a day, on a day when I'm really focused, I would be searching up for galleries, searching up for competitions or exhibitions. Then I'll be promoting myself. I'll be doing my admin, any sales that have been made, purchases and things. I have to do all of that as well. And then the really fun bits when I get to create and make. So, but I would say there's more time spent on the computer doing my admin and researching and things than there is more making really.
Okay, and just some of the things that you said there sound really interesting. For anybody who perhaps hasn't approached a gallery before, what's that like? How do you get your work exhibited?
Yeah, that is really tricky. You get a lot of no's, so you have to be prepared for those. But yeah, no, well, I go online and search for from Arts Council, just putting a search bar, up and coming exhibitions, any new dates and things. You can land on them quite easily as well on social media, sometimes, you know, following the right accounts on social media. So yeah, it's just a lot of searching really. And then your mates as well, get your mates to make sure that if they see anything, pass it on.
Yeah, okay. And so you sort of build up a list maybe of potential places that you might exhibit. So how do you choose which ones to reach out to, or do you just reach out to all of them and see what happens?
It depends on what their description is and what their brief is. So if the work doesn't align, there's no point applying. So you've got to make sure that your work just will sit within what it is they're looking for, what their exhibition's about.
Okay. And when you're actually reaching out, what do you do? So is it an email to who? I don't know. Who do you reach out to?
Everybody does it differently. So some people have an online thing that you can go online, put all your information in and pay a fee to submit. Some people ask you to email the gallery owner or the gallery director. It really depends on each submission type, really.
Yeah. Okay. And what kinds of places have you had your work exhibited? Any places that we'd know?
Yeah, Vessel Gallery in London.
Okay. Yeah.
I trying to think of the places you'd know. Local places, Lichfield. Oh gosh, on the top of my head.
I'm putting you on the spot, aren't
yeah,
I?
I've been at the Gallery. Yeah, I've been at a few places. The RBSA last week. York. Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Yeah. Okay. And I know that you also work to commissions as well, take commissions off people. So I'm just wondering, how do you get a commission? How does that all work?
They can contact me through my website, normally with an idea of what they're after. So they want a vessel making, for instance, in a specific colorway, or they have a specific theme they want. We can then, when we talk about it, so we go backwards and forwards and discussing ideas. I'll sketch out some ideas, send it to them and say, this is what I'm hoping to achieve. Would you like me to go ahead? I'd normally take a deposit and then I make it for them.
Okay, so it all comes through your website. Is that the main way that people contact you?
Yeah, for commissions, as it generally has. Yeah, because I think people need to know there's a point of contact on the website, and they trust websites more than Facebook and Instagram, I think.
Yeah. Okay. And all of the work that you do is quite unique, isn't it, for particular people, for a particular brief? I think when we've spoken before, you've said about expanding out and creating pieces that could be made in bulk and sold through websites like Not on the High Street.
Yeah,
I don't know whether you want to just say a little bit about that and your thoughts around it and what you've been doing.
There's been a bit of a battle going on when I talk to you. There's battles going on in my mind over what's my art and what's to help keep the art going, and that's where this little fight goes in my head a lot. And I've been speaking to a lot of people that I'm attached to in other societies, and everybody has this battle in their head of what's wholesale and what's not, and what's mass produced, because I don't really like to mass produce. I like everything to be, unique. So I have had battles with this one, but I have started now, and I've been selling workshop kits so people can make their own glass items, send them back to me. Them have been very popular. Then also I've been making things like pocket hooks and tea light holders and earrings and necklaces. So this is quite new for me, because I'm stepping out of my, I suppose you say, comfort zone, and changing things a little bit, but it has been good and it has been rewarding, so I'm glad I've made the jump.
Yeah, so you're perhaps having to constantly rethink the way that you do things, try things out, experiment, see what happens.
Yeah, well, for me personally, I was concerned that I was going to discredit my other work by making this kind of thing, but I don't think it does. I think it actually aligns quite well, because the people that come to my workshops or want to buy the workshop kits would like to buy a piece of my work that they might not be able to afford to buy one of the sculptures, but this work they can buy, and they can still invest in me. So I think it is important to remember that actually, yeah, you can do that. Sorry, I've got
we can hear you.
We've just lost.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
You're back.
My daughter was trying to ring me and I'm on my phone.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Naomi, I think I know a lot of people that do that. They have more of a commercial way in to support your more contemporary, your more niche work.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it, don't you, with just popped into my head, the jewellery designer Solange Azaguri Partridge. She does that. She's got a really high-end, really, really expensive fine art work for jewellery, but then she's also got this smaller line, which is more affordable. And I think a lot of people do that, and I think that's really, that's really savvy, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I've always shied away from it, but I think I was shooting myself up in the foot, and also probably timescale wise it was right for me, because my children are getting older now, so I have got a bit more time to do this, because every item you make, you've got to market it, you've got to photograph it, you've got, you know, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that you don't always necessarily realise.
Yeah. Are you represented by a gallery? No.
Not at the moment. Nobody represents me at the moment. No, I do it all myself.
Oh gosh, it's a lot.
I'm sure there's so much. I do have questions about managing your time, how you do that, but I can just see a question's popped in to the Q&A actually. Shall I read it out? Or?
Okay. Sorry. So it's from Rosalind. I saw your work at the RBSA the other week. Really gorgeous and cool work. How and when did you become a part of the Society of Designer Craftsmen?
Oh, when did I come? 2016 it was, and I was at New Designers New Designers with the university, and one of the council members approached me and asked me if I'd like to join. And
you were telling me that you do quite a bit of work with them. Was it them? Or was it a different professional body? There were two, wasn't there? You spoke.
Yeah. I work voluntary for the Society of Designer Craftsmen. I'm the membership secretary. And I'm a member of the Contemporary Glass Society as well.
So I'm sure lots of the students will be quite interested in the work of the society. Do you just want to say a bit about what they do and perhaps how the students could get involved?
Yeah, definitely. So the Society of Designer Craftsmen, it's been around a long time. Founders such as oh no, his name's gone off my head now. William Morris, Ruskin, all those kind of big brains and big minds. So it was very up and coming when it was launched in 1880. I think it was 1887. I should have had a piece of paper here with me. We have recently launched the student membership. So we're offering free until February, because that's when we plan to make the subscriptions live. So if anybody just want to join as a student, that's brilliant, and get in touch with me and my website. The email address is on the website of the Society of Designer Craftsmen. Also, I think the Contemporary Glass Society also do a student membership too. So if you are glass specific, you might want to look there. Yeah, no, it's going from strength to strength at the moment, the society. There's a lot of volunteers, council members now, trustees that are, you know, really up in the game with the society. We've got another exhibition planned for next year at Bankside, so, and it's going to be open to members to exhibit. It's getting exciting. We've done 2 this year as well, so you know, it's going well. Yeah,
I've just put the website in the chat actually. What's come through from lots of the other sessions that we've done with the other creative practitioners, what's come through is the importance of networking, knowing people, having somebody just to give you a bit of a critique sometimes. Yeah. Would you say that that's been important at all for you in your career?
Yeah, well, the one thing you lose as soon as you go from university is feedback and critical feedback. So I find that being aligned with these societies, especially through the lockdowns we've had and everybody being more engaged on Zooms and things, it's been nice to talk to like-minded people and then discuss how they've done things and how, you know, what obstacles they, you know, everybody's had problems, and you know, the next person down the line might be experiencing a problem you've had 2 years ago that you could then go, oh, I know how to help you with that. This is where you need to go. So yeah, I think like-minded people, especially with the creative industries, you need them really. Yeah.
I'm just putting the other one in the chat as well, which was the Contemporary Glass Society.
Yeah.
As well, because any glass artists might be particularly interested in that one.
Yeah.
Okay. So could you say a bit about how you got started? That would be really interesting to hear. So you actually studied at this university, didn't you?
Yeah.
And I don't think it was called glass at the time, but you were studying glass.
Yeah, it was applied arts. Yeah.
Okay. What were your kind of first steps into what you're doing now?
So after the uni, it was first steps in really. I went to uni. We finished 2016. Excuse me, sorry, dry throat now. And then I did 1 year on with New Designers. I joined the Society of Designer Craftsmen. I'd already joined the Contemporary Glass Society. The Society of Designer Craftsmen actually awarded me a free exhibition, a place in the exhibition. So based on the merit of the work. That happened in, excuse me, sorry, hold on. I have to have a drink. So that happened in 2018, which then really helped me get my foot in the ladder, talking to people. I met people from London Glass Blowing, all sorts of other people. So that was really my first steps really into becoming professional, was having the accreditations of both the Contemporary Glass Society and the SDC, looking at the work going, actually, yeah, you've got something here. And that was nice. It was like a pat on the back really. And it made me feel like, yeah, I can take it further.
So I suppose that helped you become part of the community of craftspeople. It just shows how important joining a society can be. Yeah. And kind of putting yourself out there for new designers as well, and getting yourself definitely exhibited straight away. Yeah. So that was a few years ago, wasn't it? What happened after then?
That is a few years ago now. In between, obviously, raising the family and trying to be successful at business as well, I had to think about how I was going to bring in regular income. So that's when the teaching came involved. I had done teaching qualifications at college before going to uni, so I already had that under my belt, and just did them kind of things really.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that you'd already done your teaching qualifications when you got to uni. Oh, right. So you're able to put the two together, your art plus the education side of things.
Yeah, it was only adult learning type education. It was the petals and dettles.
Yes.
And things like that, yeah.
Yes, and those qualifications are still available via the FE sector in colleges, although they're called slightly different things now.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, it changes all the time actually. Okay, so now you sort of combine your creative practice with your workshops, family life as well. I'm just wondering what that all looks like. It's I suppose what we call a portfolio career. How does that all work, and how do you manage your time?
Sometimes I don't really know how I do it. It's just you do, don't you? So I also work for my partner as well. I'm as administrator. So yeah, I have to try and divide my week up. So Mondays and Fridays I try and keep for my admin days, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays I will then work out what I need to make, where I need to make it, what if I've got to do photo shoots, and try and plan it out like that into bite-sized bits. I don't always succeed, I'm not gonna lie. It's not always easy to keep on track, especially when there's a sink full of washing or something. There's always something, isn't there, to distract you in life, especially when work's comes in. But no, you just got to try and make sure you don't forget something and keep on pushing really. Yeah.
That's quite interesting that you try and set aside particular days to do different things to make sure that everything's done. I can only imagine what that's like, because you've perhaps got maybe three roles then, I suppose, if you were to divide up the well, maybe four. It depends how much you divide it up. So the admin work, the workshop stuff, the actual making, and then I suppose there's the business side of being an artist as well. And then of course family life as well. So
there's quite a lot to do, but I like being busy. So I mean, when it was quiet through COVID, I found it really difficult. So I do like to be busy, and I like to, my mind runs all the time, and I don't know whether that's the same for you guys, but there's always something going on. You think, oh right, that's my next job, and this is what I've got to do. And so yeah, I do like to keep busy, so it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it kind of suits you and the way you think and like to do things.
Yeah.
I think we've got another question, haven't we?
Yeah, this is more about the work itself. Have you done hot glass work, like glass blowing, for instance, or has the focus always been on kiln, like such as fusing and slumping?
I did have a go at fused glass, blown glass, but and I loved it. I used to actually, excuse me, this really dry tickle. I really used to love going and sitting and watching them in the hot shop at uni. I used to find it quite like relaxing and mesmerizing, and always thought, oh, I would love to do that. I did make a bird, and I think Simon would agree that it just looked like roadkill. So I just thought, maybe this isn't for me. So no, I did focus on the kilns. And also when you're going into glass, you've got to think, can I do this at home? Well, without a furnace, no, I won't be able to. So I was always worried about whatever I do, I've got to be able to do it out of the uni as well. So there are ways you can do hot glass. I mean, don't be put off by that. You can go and rent studio spaces and things. But for me, where I live, that would have been very difficult.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? It's to kind of do a bit of forward thinking, I guess, particularly with a skill-based practice like yours, that you need this equipment. It's kind of, it's thinking ahead, isn't it? It's how once you leave uni, you know, and they've got all the equipment in the world that you need. It's, you know, will I be able to access that? Will I? And I guess that could actually change your practice, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. I mean, I was fortunate that when I started out, my dad helped me. My dad was my investor, if you like, and he bought my kiln for me. And then I've been paying him back. So
Means and ways, isn't it? Means and ways. Yeah.
Well, it is expensive. You know, my kiln was $6,500. So, you know, they aren't cheap. It's not the smallest, it's not the biggest either, but it's not cheap.
Okay, we have a question here. Is your studio in your home or is it at a separate location?
It's in my garden.
And that's what we can see now, isn't it? You're actually in your studio. This is it, guys. Yeah.
This is it. Yeah, this is it. A bit messy, but hey ho.
It was quite interesting hearing just before we came into this Zoom talk, you were saying about how you didn't always have this space in your garden. You were working in the kitchen. Do you want to just say a bit about that?
Yeah. The kitchen, well, it's kitchen diner, so the dining room part of the kitchen was kind of taken over with this racking that we'd built, which had all my glass bits on, and then I had a kiln that wheeled out. And I don't recommend a kiln at home. That's not a good idea. So it was a case of this has to be sorted out quick, because I couldn't really use the kiln in the kitchen. It wasn't safe. So we had this shed built at the bottom of the garden. Yeah.
And I think you said you rented some space as well, some studio space for a while.
Yeah,
so,
I did.
So that's another option, I guess.
Yeah, you could do that, definitely. Yeah, find somewhere where there's. And another thing with renting studio space is actually really nice, because you get to be again around like-minded people, and I do really miss that every week, going in for 3 days and actually chatting to them and getting inspired by each other. You know, just an innocent conversation, making a cup of coffee is priceless in some situations. You know, just chatting to people. That's the only downside with being at home. Although through COVID and everything, it's been quite handy because I've had it here if I want it. You know. So there's pros and cons for it all, really, I suppose. It's just figure out who you are and what you need, I suppose.
Yeah, depending on your practice, I suppose. Yeah, so you brought up COVID. I think you said previously things changed for you quite a lot through COVID. There were some additional things that you took on, changed your practice. Let's hear a little bit about that. That was really interesting.
So during COVID, obviously we all became, if you had children, you became a teacher, didn't you? Pretty much overnight, you're like, oh no, teachers have got hard jobs, this is hard. So I had to homeschool. Then I picked up the extra duties with the Society of Designer Craftsmen. I was also helping my partner with his admin, but then I had to be furloughed to look after the children. Then what else? Oh, and then I picked up some hours with the local vaccine centre. So that was interesting. And then obviously when coming back, and we were released, weren't we, again for a while, that we had an ease of the lockdown restrictions. And I ran an online course, a glass course, for a local group called Sunflower Group. and we did it at home, but we did it via a Facebook meeting thing. So they all took the boxes away, did it at home online with me live, and brought it back, and they just told me how wonderful they found it. So I thought, oh, actually there's a market there then. So then I started making the boxes, and that's when I thought, oh, where can I sell these, not on high street? And then they asked it, and then with what we talked about earlier about doing the smaller things, the more affordable items, and so that's how that grew there.
So interesting just to hear about how you diversified again because of COVID, taking on additional roles and perhaps seeing a few more opportunities. So
yeah,
doing things online.
Yeah, I think you've got to. It's been hard, hasn't it, for everybody? And when you have to stop like that and look in and go, right, how am I going to do this, and how? Because for me, I was like, well, I need to keep the practice, my practice going, and to do that, I needed to bring in revenue that I couldn't easily, because all the exhibitions stopped. I mean, I was doing, and all the teaching stopped. So everything just was like, oh, next month you had all this coming in, but now you've got nothing, because that's not going to happen now. So how are you going to move forward with that? And then you had to deal with the children. Obviously family comes first. So yeah, you just had to try and work it out really best as you can. Yeah,
everybody had to adapt, I think, during that time. Just going back to something that you were saying, well, actually you said it a few times now about the kind of business side of being an artist. You dropped in a few little bits about the things that you have to do. Could you just say a bit more about what you have to do to market your work, make sure your website is looking good, to get your customers, that sort of thing?
Oh, there's so much.
The admin.
There's so much, the admin side. So my websites, I use Squarespace. I have used WordPress in the past, which is fine as well. I was just struggling with the whole, because when you have WordPress, so yes, it's a free platform, but then you have to buy storage on the cloud, don't you? So then you have to buy, it's a HostGator or hosting or whatever. With Squarespace, I don't have to worry about that. I pay one-off fee, and my website can be commerce as well. So I actually have 2 commerce pages on there for the workshops and for the artworks. So I keep them separate. There are other website providers out there, because I thought, I don't know, I'm going selling Squarespace. So I do all that in-house. So everything, it's very simple actually. If you get a good provider like that, they're very easy to negotiate. It's things like SEOs, so you've got to keep up your SEOs and make sure your content's relevant, because it's all about Google searches. So I have a Google business platform as well, which actually helps feed your website. So anything on Google, because Google's quite a big search engine, it all feeds. There's so much technical information really behind that, I suppose. Can't really got time to go into details, but it's about, I suppose, having presence in all these places. Then when somebody Googles glass artists in your area or whatever profession you're in, you come up first, so you're trying to get it seen, because you are a little fish in a big blue sea. So you have to do all these things in the background of the websites and of Google business to make sure that yours is up there with everybody else's.
So a lot of web stuff, search engine optimization. What other things are part of the admin?
Oh, accounting.
The admin job. Yeah, accounting. I was just thinking accounting. Yeah.
I outsource that. So if you don't like it, you really, really don't like it, outsource it. She's very valuable to me. I love her to pieces, and she does it all.
Yeah, I think our previous speakers last week said the same thing about accounts, to probably not do them yourself. It's very time consuming, and it frees up time for you to do other stuff, doesn't it? And there's all the legalities, isn't there, behind it, I guess.
Yeah, that's the bit that worries me the most, because I would hate to get it wrong, and it's only one silly mistake and then you have got it wrong, and I really no, Philippa can have that.
Yeah. Some of the things that you're mentioning, perhaps you weren't taught at university. You're studying to be an artist at university, and this business stuff is all extra. How did you pick it up?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, my partner was self-employed and has now got a limited business. So I had some prior insights into it, and obviously his expertise and his knowledge to pull on as well, and a lot of friends as well. So again, it's aligning and finding who can help and advise you best as they can, and trial and error and research, I suppose. Look online. It's easy to set up a business on Companies House, really easy. It's just all the other bits that come with that. So knowing what you're responsible for and what you've got to do, when you've got to do it, submitting statements and things like that. Again, my accountant is great. Yeah.
So yes, trial and error and getting the right support. And we've spoken in previous sessions about that, just how dominant really self-employment is within the arts. And for anybody that didn't come to the previous sessions, something called the Speed program can really help with that. It's a team located within the university that can help anybody set up a business, and will go through accounts and marketing and some of the things that Naomi is talking about. So I'll put their link up in the chat in a moment if anybody's interested.
Yeah, you just reminded me, actually, I did join WIRE, Women in Rural Enterprise, in the early years, just as well. That was a networking thing, and there was quite a few craft makers there, so it was good to talk to them. That tickle's still there, sorry about that.
That's okay.
And Instagram, so because Instagram was quite new really when I first started out, and the rhythms and everything change all the time, so you've just always got to be on it all the time. I mean, my partner and I mean, the amount of arguments we had over me being on social media, and actually I'm working, it's not for pleasure. So but do manage that as well, because that can become all encompassing, and you don't want to be weighed down with it. And there are a lot of apps now that will allow you to multi-share, so you can do it once or schedule it as well. So block out that time again on that day of that admin, right, I'm doing this week's Facebook posts and Instagram posts, and just get it done and schedule it in. Them are top tips really. I would say definitely do that.
Yeah, you have to do that, don't you, to be seen in that big ocean of fishes, that analogy. It kind of conjures up a really good image, doesn't it, in your mind of you having to stay buoyant, at the top of there, and to devote a certain amount of hours a week on that.
Well, yeah, especially now when they're putting stories now, so stories need to be like pretty much on the go, don't they?
Yes, yeah.
It's like, and people say, oh well, I just saw you on your stories. I'm like, actually, that wasn't today. Really sorry, but it wasn't today. Sometimes that happens, people. It's fine. You can't be doing everything all the time. It's not humanly possible.
Well, I mean, some people, that's their entire job, isn't it? To work in social media.
Absolutely. It's a full-time job, isn't it, in itself?
Yeah. Bigger organisations have teams of people just doing that. So I guess you have to decide how much you're going to do, and you can't perhaps do every single social media platform justice. So you also pick your channels as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It's quite interesting because Lindsay, who was our first guest speaker, a designer maker, was pretty much saying the same thing, and how she devotes Monday mornings, I think she was saying, to social media. Just making sure that she has regular content on her platforms.
I have noticed it does make a difference if it is regular, because you get the people pick it up then, and then you get your people that share it a lot. An organic following as well, I think, is very important, because you can pay for followers, I believe, but I've never done it. But the sites I see that I've got like thousands, unless they're a big top brand, I always think, how have they done that? And then I don't know that it's all genuine, and then you do wonder whether they get the interactions that you get in a genuine account.
I think you can tell sometimes if the likes are quite low, but they've got a lot of followers. I think that's kind of a good indication that people have been paying for followers. I'm not sure how good that is for your business, though. You know.
No. Well, for me, I would look at that and go, "Oh, I don't know if you're genuine."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, where are you taking things in the future then? Have you got any ambition to kind of grow your practice, or I don't know, how do you see the future?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, it's that again, that blue ocean. It's so deep. I don't know. I want to, you know, get the process I'm doing recognised, and I want to push that, which I do find is the hardest thing for me to do, is to push my own practice. I do struggle with it. It's my own issue that I do deal with a lot. And I will do it, and I'll get there. It's just little steps for me. But I do want to develop it as well. So I am always thinking about what can I do with it now? What else can I do? Or do I just need to start something else? You know, I want to develop my own practice and grow it, really. Yeah.
Great. I'm just wondering whether there's any questions from the audience at all at this point. We've covered quite a lot already, haven't we, in terms of how you started out, what things look like at the moment, day-to-day activities, where you're going in the future.
If anyone's got any questions, do pop them in. We're okay for time. I've got one actually. You mentioned right at the beginning, Naomi, about you've done an exhibition at Vessel Gallery, London. That's really prestigious gallery for a glass artist. I mean, that's incredible. Did they approach you, or?
I think the Vessel Gallery was the Contemporary Glass Society.
Ah, okay.
So that was the way I got in there. I did. Yeah. I have met the chap from the Vessel Gallery.
Angel, isn't it?
Angel, yeah. I think I met him. He was local somewhere, but yeah, I have met him. But again, I need to follow up things like that. That's one of my. I really need a manager to do that for me.
An accountant, a manager.
Yeah, I need somebody to do that for me. Yeah, outsource these jobs, I think, because they're definitely the key.
Would you say sort of on the network front, I guess, would you advise people to sort of, well, I don't know, have you done a lot of that sort of networking yourself in the beginning, or would you still do that? Or?
I did in the beginning, I did, and then I suppose I've grown and developed into the societies that I'm with now, so I've created more contacts there and networking there. I think for creative, you can have your business. See, when I went to the networking like B4B and The Wire, it's more businesses like, I don't know how to describe it. It's more like, you know, they're office based, or they're industrial based, or they're accountants, or they're photographers, or whatever. They all might come in handy, but they're not prominently what I needed to enable the business to grow. If that makes sense. I can photograph my work, that's fine. I've got an accountant, I've already got that ticked. You know, it was about who would I be able to, you know, find a resource for, really, or information, or just that feedback. I mean, critical feedback is so important, and now I've got a few places I could go, right, I've got this, can you let me know what you think? Because that's more important, really, because especially when you're trying to sell something, if you've had no feedback on it, you know, you don't know what's going to come back, do you?
Yeah, I think you've mentioned before the importance of being in a network, and it's a trend actually that seems to be coming up time and time again in the guest speaker talks that we've had so far. You know, growing your network, having people who will give you this criticism and moral support as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, your family are your best, you know, your biggest fans, aren't they? Oh, everything's great, wonderful, it's great. No, but really, I need to know what can I improve on this? I need to know, you know.
Yeah, but you kind of need peer sort of opinions, don't you?
Yeah, and you lose that at uni. I did try with the people I graduated with, we did try and have a group on Facebook to just critique our art. And unfortunately, everybody has a life, you know, and things like that just go off. You need to have some, like an accountability buddy, maybe, you know, just somebody to go, right, you said you were going to do this, because you're your own boss, you know. You can choose when you do stuff, and sometimes some days you don't want to do it, do you? But if you've got somebody to holding you accountable, then better do it.
It's interesting what you're saying about having somebody who'll hold you accountable. We do also run a mentoring scheme at the university, and mentoring is great for that, isn't it? I don't know whether you've ever had a mentor, Naomi, but you know, just having somebody that you'll speak to regularly, who'll check what your goals are, and then a month later check whether you've achieved those, whether you progress things. So if any of the students here are interested, it's called the Alumni Mentoring Scheme. And it's open to all students and recent graduates. So I might just put that in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've imparted loads of advice so far. I suppose, what would be your top tips for people who are about to graduate and interested in the kind of work that you do? How would you get started? Like, top tips
for starting a business?
I suppose, yes. Not specifically glass artist, but a creative practice, which probably would be self-employed, wouldn't it? What would you advise?
My top tips would probably be for you if you're going self-employed. So get a good website, or if you don't, make sure your social media is clean and tidy, and that the contact points are on there. Get seen. So depending on what you're doing, whether that's craft fairs, there's so much more of them now. I mean, they could be the village ones, they could be contemporary ones, they could be, you know, doing shows at long weekends. I've done things like Art, and I've done obviously the exhibitions. There's lots of places out there. There's so many actually. And make sure your photography is good. So if your photographs and your blurb's good, you know, you're likely to get in just on that alone. So then my top tips really. Images, and just get seen. Yeah, just go and do it.
Brilliant, thank you so much for those top tips. I've just put the link to the mentoring into the chat there, so just asking the audience really if there are any more questions.
There is one that's coming from Gemma. She asks, do you miss being at university, or are you glad it's all over?
Oh, I really miss it actually. I was older when I went to uni, and I used to get a bit like envious of the the younger ones that had all the time.
Yeah.
So I really miss it. I wish I had longer or more available time there, because I would have been there every day just so I could, you know, go use the resources, talk to the teachers, talk to the technicians, the tutors. So yeah, I do actually really miss uni.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go back to uni as well, the good old days.
I've got another question. Have you ever considered doing a master's degree?
I have, but I'll let you into a little secret. I've got dyslexia, so that puts me off big time, because I would feel like I couldn't do it. So again, another little obstacle for me there. But yes, I have contemplated it. Yeah.
That's interesting that you know, very successful with dyslexia. You know, there may be obstacles that you face perhaps in daily life, in your working life, that perhaps you have to try and somehow get round. You
just build coping mechanisms. It was actually while I was at uni that I found out I was doing the dissertation at the end, and I was finding it really difficult, and I was like, what is going on here? So I paid and I went to see a lady who did an assessment, and she said, yeah, it's pretty damn obvious. I was like, okay. And she just said that I'd obviously developed these coping mechanisms to get around it, and at this point I couldn't get around it because it was there. I had to do it. So yeah, it was interesting, and it made me realize why I think like I do, I suppose, which isn't a bad thing, because I mean, I did the talks with BBC Bite Size the other week, and one of the things I did say to the kids was, look, if you've got dyslexia, it's not a disadvantage, you know, it's a superpower if you use it right. You know, you're thinking different, you're asking different questions, it's good. So you can't write properly, or you can't, you know, some other things you can't do, but that's okay. You know, there's other things you can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really important that people hear that, really, and interesting that you were able to speak about that through BBC Bite Size, which is yet another thing that you're doing alongside everything else.
Yeah.
Probably everybody's familiar with that because of lockdown. Certainly anybody with kids.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that was fun.
What did you actually have to do for that?
So I was like a panelist like this, I suppose, and they were asking questions. 3 different schools I went to. No, it was nice. It was good. It was 4 sessions throughout the day, and they were 45 minutes each. And it was question. Kids could ask us questions. Yeah, and it was quite nice. It was nice. It was nice for me in a way for reflecting, because I hadn't thought back that far to GCSE for a long time. And so, oh, what would you do with it? What would you offer your advice to you if you were 14, 15? I was like, oh, just go with it. And if you make a mistake, it's fine. You know, it's not the end of the world. You can move forward. It'll be fine. You learn. Yeah.
It sounds like a really good experience.
It was fun. It was nice. And I got to meet some other people as well, which was nice.
Just think we've got another question, haven't we? Oh, Claire, you're on mute.
One for Gemma. What are your favourite and least favourite selling platforms, not including your own website?
Oh, selling platforms. I haven't really experienced that many. I avoided Etsy, and to be fair, I didn't want to go on, not on the high street, if I'm honest, in the beginning, because I didn't have any work that I thought would fit there. Etsy, I think, is quite heavily populated, so again, it's the SEOs that would, and for me with the writing of everything, I would struggle to get mine visually seen with the wording. I just wouldn't even go there. I've got friends who are creatives and they use Etsy fine. So I think it's just based on, really, you've got to do your research and see whether your work fits and see what their client, ask somebody and say, would my work fit? Because, you know, they're not going to want you if your work doesn't suit. So, you know, it might be just best to ask somebody. There's always an email address somewhere, if you look. And it was not on the high street. I got in touch with them and said, would you be interested in? And they came back, oh, what do you do? And then so the conversation developed there. So yeah, just ask, really, I'd say. Can't go wrong with asking. What's the worst they can do? They know.
Yeah, that's good advice. Oh, Lisa, you're on mute. You've just done what I've done.
I've done it now. No, I was just saying, yeah, it's really good advice. Just putting yourself out there, having a go. You'll never know if you don't try. And again, similar to what some of our other guest speakers have been saying as well. Yeah, so I'm just wondering if there are any more questions from the audience.
None in the chat at the moment, but do pop them in. We're okay for another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, please feel free to ask away. I've sort of reached the end of my questions, to be honest with you. Was there anything that you wanted to ask, Claire?
Well, I've just been kind of dipping in. I was kind of interested to hear about Vessel Gallery, because I know that, do you know Chris Day, who's one of our alumni?
He's the glass artist, isn't he?
Glass artist, yeah. And,
yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah, I think that's why I picked up about Vessel Gallery, and I think it's interesting, isn't it, that, you know, to kind of, you're attached to the
contemporary glass, yeah,
and that's kind of opening doors for you,
because he's with the Contemporary Glass Society as well, I believe. Yeah, so I think it does align you well, you know, because if that a society that you join, it could be anybody, it could be the craft guild, it could be, you know, anybody, they're going to do their own marketing. Yeah, so by default you're going to get put in places that you might not have actually approached it or thought of. So to me, it's a no-brainer, really. And yeah, there is a fee, but you know, you put that into your accountant and she puts that against, you know, advertising or whatever she does with it, and you know, it's worth its weight in gold then.
Yeah, just as the accountant is worth her weight in gold.
Yes, she is.
We do have a question from Rosalind. Where did you buy your kiln from, and where do you source your materials?
So my kiln came from Kiln Care at Stoke. I did go up and see them because I knew which one I wanted, because I wanted the same one that was at uni. Because of my figurative sculptures being quite large, I wanted to be able to put 2 in at a time if needs be. So that was from Kiln Care at Stoke, and my glass supplies I get from Warm Glass, which is bullseye glass. So yeah,
Great.
hope that helps.
Yes, yeah, sure.
Do you use a lot of coloured glass, Naomi?
I don't know. I do for commissions if people ask, and I do like blue, but because
I think I've seen maybe some blue in the past. Yeah,
because my glass, the way I form it and fuse it, it has to bond, and different colours do different things at different temperatures. So an opaque glass is harder. So I'd have to really work out what firing I'd need to make it the way I do, if that makes sense. There's quite a lot of science that goes into the making, because I want the glass to bond together but not lose its shape too much. So it's bonding. Yeah, and the heat is important when it comes to glass, because the different types of glass will heat, you know, start melting point will change just 1 degree or 2 degrees, or maybe even 5, 10, but that can be quite a big difference.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that, Naomi. That's interesting insight. Yeah, and it just reminds me of what you were saying previously about how you changed your process to make your products more robust.
Yeah. I purposely tried to break one. We dropped it. We videoed it, but it was not worth videoing because literally a corner came off. I was like, oh, that didn't do exactly what I thought it did. I thought it would just gone to 1,000 pieces, but no, it didn't. And I was like, actually, it's really strong.
Yeah, because it doesn't look strong, does it? It looks so delicate and so fragile and really ephemeral, and so yeah, that's just a kind of a progression of your practice, isn't it? Is learning those techniques that sort of strengthen it, and
I think every time I fire the kiln, I learn something a bit new, and especially when colours added, because it's like, oh, well, that hasn't done exactly what it would do if it was clear. So you're like, oh, right, okay, what's going on here? And then I do find it interesting. So I'm a bit of a science geek, but yeah, I do find that side interesting.
Yeah, that's more experimentation, isn't it? I suppose. Just trial and error, trying things out.
Well, I played with Swarovski, didn't I, at one point, because they approached me at New Year Designers one year on Swarovski. She was adamant it was crystal. I was like, no, it's glass. But when you actually Google what crystal is, crystals grown in the ground, like salt crystals or crystal formations. So I was like, oh, I'm not sure what crystal is. Yeah. So we had a bit of a debate, but yeah, it was fun.
Great. Any more questions, everybody? I'll just sort of round up, I think. Please post a question as I'm talking. But thank you so much, Naomi, for everything that you shared today. It's been so interesting to see you in your studio and to hear about your creative practice and how you got started. I think everybody will agree you passed on an awful lot of tips that the students can apply for themselves now, particularly things like building a network and reaching out to the relevant society for their practice. And it's given us a lot of inspiration as well, so thank you.
No worries.
So for everybody who's listening in, we have 2 more talks in this series before Christmas, and our next one is with Nick Cohen, who is an alumni from University of Wolverhampton. He's worked for a number of years in the ad industry, and he actually went overseas to New York to set up an ad agency, and then has since then moved to Silicon Valley and works for Facebook. Actually, I think now he runs his own business actually. So he's going to be a really interesting person to speak to. In his bio, he says about how at school, in his own words, he was a bit of a disaster. That's how he's put it, and sort of ruled out this kind of career for himself back then, but obviously has since been very successful. So please tune in and listen to Nick next week. Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you again. One last final thank you to everybody. Thank you for everybody that's joined in with us today as well. Thank you for your questions. And have a good afternoon.
It's nice to see you, Naomi.
Nice to see you too. Take care, guys.
You too. Bye.
You too, take care.